articles? Well, Tesla stock is booming. We have seen ever since they came out with the delivery report last Tuesday, we have seen the stock skyrocketing. We'll get into why that has been skyrocketing as it is and how long this is going to last. Are we going to see a pullback? If we do see a pullback, where will we pull back to? We'll take a look at some of the gaps that, those of you who have been following me for a while know I called that gap down at 146 after we crossed that $260 level last year. Nobody thought we were coming down that low. We filled that gap. Gaps fill 9 out of 10 times, so we'll discuss those just as a piece of what could potentially be going on with the stock price movement. We'll get into that, how long this is going to last, what else is going on in the macro economy in just a minute. All right, before we get into it, if you guys like this kind of content, like talking about Tesla, like talking about investing, everything that's going on in the economy when it comes to the macro, interest rates, inflation, and how to get yourself to financial freedom through passive income, please hit that like button down below. All right, so last week we got the report that came out. Tesla delivered 444,000 vehicles. Now that beat expectations. The whisper on the street was around 420,000 vehicles, and the consensus estimate was 438,000. So it was a beat for both. This is why we popped a lot, because the whisper number is typically what we go by. We've seen it go in the other directions where the whisper number is a lot of times higher than what the consensus estimate is. So you may see Tesla beat the consensus estimate, but the stock price doesn't really run. As a matter of fact, most times we see it fall back because it never hit that whisper number. Now, conversely, we beat that whisper number because it was much lower than consensus estimate. Now, when you take a look at this, we'll see what happens when we get to earnings. Earnings are coming out on July 23rd after hours. It's on a Tuesday. So one of the things that I had noticed is last year for Q2, we delivered 466,000 vehicles. So we're 22,000 vehicles delivered lower than last year. When we get to take a look at margins and we look at EPS and we start looking at the bottom line, if Tesla can show that they have a better and stronger bottom line by delivering 22,000 vehicles less than last year, that is an amazing sign for Tesla. That is going to mean that they have done a great job becoming even more efficient and producing more dollars on the bottom line with less effort. Now, we do have to remember that this quarter, we saw a major reduction in staff at Tesla. They cut a lot of jobs that came out, so we're going to see that hitting the bottom line as well with massive payroll cuts. Now, along the way, I'm sure that there were some packages that were made, especially for the higher executives that were out there, but all in all, it should be a major reduction when it comes to payroll in the bottom line. Another piece is going to be we've got the Cybertruck starting to hit ramp. Not fully there yet, but the ramp costs should be lower for Q2 than they were for Q1. We'll see how that plays out. I'm not really sure. Typically earlier on, the ramp costs are higher, and then obviously as you produce more vehicles, those costs end up coming down. So we'll see where they're at with that ramp. So those two things, plus giving away FSD for free for a month for people to try. I don't know if they're going to disclose what the take rate was for FSD along the way with that. Typically, they've never told us that information before, so I don't know if they're going to tell us that now. We'll kind of have to see how that plays out. Now, another thing too is they did have a lot of creative financing where they had like a 1.99% financing on the Model Y. That obviously was going to cost them money. We don't know how much that cost was. So was it worth the cost? Did it actually bump it up? And that's why we hit that 444,000 vehicles delivered? I don't know. And for the first time in memory, I'm not even sure if it's ever happened, Tesla actually delivered more vehicles than they produced. Now, obviously, this is because they had a large inventory getting built up over the last year because of the deliveries that have been declining. So now they have thinned out a lot of that inventory. So even just production costs alone would have come down significantly because those production costs had already been absorbed in the Q1. Now we've been selling those vehicles out, lowering inventory. So overall, we should see a very good earnings report coming out for Q2. So I think that's a big reason why we had seen the stock price running as it is, because those delivery numbers gave us very positive information about the sales and revenue that are going to be coming in. You factor in all the back end stuff for the bottom line, could be a very strong earnings report that we see. Now, the catalysts that we have coming up that could move the stock one way or the other, we've got CPI data coming out on Thursday. The Fed came out and spoke today, didn't really give us any information that was going to move the stock one way or the other. It was more bullish than anything. So we got the entire stock market moving up and Tesla along with it. So now we're going to have CPI coming out on Thursday. That's going to give us more indication about the macro environment and what's going on there. Then we're going to end up having on July 23rd, as I said, we've got earnings coming out at that point. Then we've got the robotaxi event coming out on August 8th. I have a feeling, me personally, I think it's going to be a sell the news situation, especially if we get a positive earnings and we run up from there. Now, you guys who have been following Tesla for a while know that a lot of times when we get a good earnings report, we get a sell off afterwards. It's just how Tesla has operated. You usually run into earnings and then sell the news at earnings. So I don't know how this is going to factor out this time around when we've got earnings and the robotaxi event coming out, but I still think that we're going to get a pullback after the robotaxi event. It's going to be a sell the news situation unless Tesla comes out with something immaculate and this miraculous, robotaxi that's actually live and ready to go now, and you can actually put dollar amounts to it. I don't think that's going to happen. On top of that, in August, we are also going to be getting the revised unemployment numbers from last year. Some analysts think that we are going to see much worse numbers, and we may have actually been in an unemployment recession since last October. If that's the case, the entire macro environment's not going to be happy and could pull down. Then we, of course, have the election going on here in the US. That historically has always led to uncertainty, and uncertainty in the market typically leads to a pullback as well. Now, when we do get the election results, we typically see the market run up afterwards, regardless of who wins. It's just during that election time, when there's the uncertainty of who's going to be president, we see the market pull back. Typically, that's September and October. Then early November, we have the election. Now, based upon what the Fed has told us, looks like the first rate cuts are going to happen 2 days after the election. So that's when the next FOMC meeting is going to be after the election. It was originally supposed to fall on election day. They decided that that wasn't a good idea. And they don't want to sound political when they do that. So that kind of pushes off a September cut. So chances are we're going to be getting that first rate cut coming in November. I personally think that we're also going to get a sell the news situation when it comes to the rate cuts because everybody's anticipating and thinking, well, when the rates come down, the market should go up. But the market has been going up. So I think we're going to get a sell the news situation. And by the Fed putting out that rate cut on November 7th, right after the election, when the market typically starts booming, it could counteract that effect of the sell the news situation when it comes to the rate cuts. Again, that's much further down the road. We'll discuss that as we get further, but those are kind of the catalysts I see going over the next 3 months. So how far is Tesla going to run from here? I personally think we could potentially run right into earnings. We might keep on going. We might push up to that $300 level. That's going to be a psychological level for us to cross. There's a couple of steps along the way, and us closing today around that 263 mark, that was one of the big steps and gaps on the way down that we had hit and stopped at for a while last year. So now we're pushing back up to it. You guys know last year we pushed up to 260 about 3 times, never broke it. We're now starting to break that. Tesla has broken a 2.5-year downtrend. So this is a very good breakout that we're in. Can we hold it? So above this, we've got 300, and then we have that very, very important $314 level that we could not break previously. We hit it 3 times, fell down, and from there we went to the $100 level and never made it back up there again. So those are the 2 levels above us that we're going to be looking at to see if Tesla is going to be able to cross this and push to all-time highs. Now, I don't think we're going to get to all-time highs anytime soon. That's well up into the $400 level. I think that's 414 around there. So I don't think we're going to get to that point anytime soon, but pushing over 300 may potentially happen. Now let's take a look at on the downside. If we do get that pullback after robotaxi event and going into the election with a whole market pullback, we'll take a look at some of the gaps at levels that we might get pulled down to. All right, so here we are here. We closed at 262.33, still pushing up another dollar after hours. But again, typically when you see these massive runs from Tesla, you're going to see gaps get created. So here we have a gap, 231 to 234. So that would be the first gap to fill on the way down. Below that, we have 213 to 218. And now, while we did fill that 146 gap all the way back here in April, we did create another one at 147 to 157. So this is a pretty wide gap here. And so I'm not sure what's going to get filled. There's a lot of gaps that go well below this down to the 114 level. So there's so much that's going on in the macro environment. This is one of those situations where chances are election time, these 2 gaps are most likely going to get filled. Even if we do run to 300, maybe we get a lot of uncertainty. Look at the parabolic moves that Tesla makes. it can move downward the same way. We've seen it happen. But this could be one of those we fill the gaps and then run right back up again. This gap down here could be a situation where, ooh, maybe we've got talks of recessions. Maybe we've got a lot more uncertainty, a lot more ugly things going on in the market. We pull down to here. Now, again, this won't be anything Tesla specific. I think Tesla has gotten through the darkest of their times most recently when it comes to deliveries and struggles that they're having there. I think we're through that. So anything that pulls us down is going to be mostly macro related. And then, any FUD that gets popped out there. But I don't think, unless Tesla has something specific that hits them hard, probably won't have any issues to do with Tesla. But this gap could get filled back down to that 147 level. And now on top of us, we do have this gap that goes up to the 289 level. So again, I think we have the potential to run up and fill this gap at 289 above us. So I think we have a potential to get to there, maybe touch that $300 level. Then we really have to test to see if we're going to pass 314. Those are the levels I'm paying attention to right now. So all in all, again, I still think Tesla is going to be phenomenal long term. So this is really more near term trading type stuff. So this is not for investors. This is more for traders. When I take a look at and analyze different stocks and things like that, I kind of look at it from an entire encompassing standpoint. So I look at things from the macro environment, the fundamentals of the company, what's going on with the charts. Because when you look at technical analysis and you say, all right, well, I believe based upon sentiment and what's going on with the company, the stock should be moving up. And then you ask, well, what level will it move up to? That's where the charts and technical analysis come in, because you can kind of dial into those pinpointed areas, and then you're never going to be perfect on it, but you can kind of get like a general area of where you think the stock could move to and different levels. So again, that's for traders. For anybody who's an investor, look at the company long term. I know most of you guys are investors that are watching this. And you just take a look at the company long term. Obviously, long term, they've got great plans. They've got the robo-taxi, the compact car that's going to be coming out. Energy is going to be booming. You've got Optimus that's going to be coming out, which is much further ahead of where I thought it was going to be myself. So you take a look at all of those different things and you start looking, 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. But it doesn't matter whether you buy the stock at $200, $300, $400, you'll be fine long term down the road. But when you're looking at something near term and you're thinking, oh, do I want to buy now? Do I want to wait? It's one of the reasons why I had kind of changed my investing strategy slightly based upon the more near and medium term macro environment and what my investing strategy was going to be. I was looking more for passive income, trying to get some of that revenue coming in and getting cash flow generation so that I could buy more Tesla stock. Now, yes, we've been running a lot. So you may say, I missed the boat on some of this, but I was buying down at that $150 level. Now I have more cash flow coming in and taking a look at the gaps. And again, this is now the second time I've had people tell me we're never going to get that low. And the second time I have said we're going to fill these gaps. And guess what? They filled the gaps both times. So are we going to maybe not fill them this third time around? I don't know. Historically, typically it happens. So I'm not trying to time the market. I'm just trying to do what's right for me and my own personal investing. And that is getting cash flow generation coming in and having cash stockpiled up. So when we get opportunities on things like that, when we come down and fill gaps, then I can deploy some of that cash to be able to buy more Tesla as it dips down lower. We know Tesla dips regularly. It's going to happen. We know Tesla runs up. We saw Tesla run up for 2.5 years, and then we saw it fall down for 2.5 years. We hit cycles like that. It happens, but that gives us buying opportunities. So that's just what I'm waiting for. That's how I'm doing it personally. I know a lot of you guys just buy and hold, and we all have our own different strategies for that. So you guys do what's best for you. So for me, that's what I'm taking a look at. I've got those gaps I'm taking a look at. I'm building up my cash stockpile reserves. I've got cash flow coming in right now, looking to get this house ready to go in the next couple of months to get rented out for even more cash flow. That's what I sold most of my Tesla for, was to get a down payment and buy this house. So now I can get that cash flow coming in. And if timing works out well, and we do end up getting that pullback because of the election and potentially hit a recession, which could get even uglier and bring us down even lower, I will have significantly more cash flow coming in to take advantage of those opportunities. But the majority of my portfolio, between all of my ETFs, Tesla stock individually, my IRA, and all of my 401k and retirement accounts, I have a significant portion of my portfolio still in Tesla. So it's not like I'm out of Tesla. I still have a significant amount in. So if we continue to run from here, I'm still invested. But I'm ready to take advantage of it on an individual stock basis if we dip lower to buy more Tesla itself. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. How high do you think we are going to go? And do you think we'll fill those gaps below us? Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of your support. Have a great one.